She had been waiting at table 4 for the wrong man for 22 minutes when the real threat crossed the street. The midday sun struck the white marble patio hard enough to make every iced tea glass sweat through its coaster. Waiters moved between tables with polished trays. The terrace café of the Grand Regent hummed with polite conversation, soft laughter, and the low hiss of the espresso machine inside. I stood near the mahogany host stand with the reservation tablet in one hand and my radio earpiece in the other. Table 4. Party of 2. Reserved under Mr. Vance. The woman sitting there did not look like someone waiting for romance. She looked like someone bracing for impact. She sat upright in a pale blouse, with a light cardigan over her shoulders, one hand near the menu, the other beside a phone she kept checking without answering. A small vase of flowers sat between two untouched glasses. The reserve sign caught the sunlight at the edge of the table. The hostess had called her Charlotte when she arrived. Charlotte Reed. I knew the name from donor packets and city charity calendars. Director of the Oakwood Literacy Foundation, her organization funded school libraries, reading programs, and tutoring support for children whose neighborhoods rarely appeared in glossy fundraising brochures. She had arrived early. The man crossing the street now was late. He walked too fast, smoothing his navy suit jacket with an irritated tug. He did not carry flowers, he did not smile. His eyes locked on Charlotte, as if she were not a woman at a table but a problem he intended to close. I tapped. My radio. Hold my section, I said quietly. I'm stepping onto the patio. The floor manager answered, Copy. By the time I reached the edge of the terrace, Vance had stopped at Charlotte's table. He did not sit. He planted both hands flat on the marble and leaned over her menu, blocking the sun from her face. Read the terms, Charlotte, he said. The deposit is non-refundable. You lost the venue. You lost the money. Your foundation can take it as a lesson in fine print. Charlotte's spine straightened. The roof in your hall failed inspection, she said. Her voice was controlled, but her fingers pressed flat against the table. Your building cannot legally host our gala. That is not a cancellation. That is a structural failure caused by negligence. Vance gave a short laugh. Prove it before Friday, or withdraw the claim. If you force this, I countersue the foundation for defamation and freeze your remaining assets in discovery. There it was. The trap. Not just a lost venue. Not just a lost deposit. $50,000 locked. 6 weeks until her annual gala. 400 donors. A hostile board waiting for proof that Charlotte could not protect the foundation's operational funding. If the gala failed, children lost programs, staff lost salaries, and Evelyn Morris, the board member already pushing to dissolve Charlotte's team and absorb the endowment into her own project, would finally have the excuse she wanted. I stepped to the table with an empty water carafe in my hand. Excuse me, I said, keeping my voice low and even. Is there a problem with the service today, or is everything to your liking? Vance snapped his head toward me. We're having a private conversation. Back off, waiter. I did not blink. The lapel pin on my jacket identified me clearly to anyone who knew the property. General Manager of Operations, the Grand Regent. But men like Vance often missed what mattered when they were busy performing power. I looked past him to Charlotte. Ma'am, I said, keeping both hands visible on the carafe. Would you like privacy, or would you like this gentleman escorted off the terrace? Surprise crossed her face. Not because I offered help, because I asked first. She took one careful breath. He was just leaving. Vance pointed at her. Friday, Charlotte, withdraw the claim, or I make sure the board sees exactly how expensive your mistakes are. He turned and shoved past me, his shoulder clipping mine. I stayed still. Vance stalked down the sidewalk, crossed the street, and disappeared behind the line of parked cars. The patio returned slowly to its soft conversations, but the space around table 4 remained quiet. I set a fresh glass of ice water in front of Charlotte. The glass clicked against the coaster. He's lucky, I said. She looked up. I kept my tone grounded, not flirtatious. Not because this was a date, because you still showed up with enough composure to negotiate while he tried to corner you. Her eyes moved from me to the reserved sign, then to the empty chair across from her. It wasn't a date, she whispered. It was an ambush. Her hand tightened around the cold glass. Then her voice dropped. And frankly, I wish it was you. The sentence landed between us, like something too honest for noon. It was not seduction. It was exhaustion. A woman who had spent too long making every decision alone had finally said the quiet part out loud before she could stop herself. I touched the back of the empty chair. May I sit for a moment? She nodded. I sat across from her, leaving the table between us. I'm Noah Mitchell, I said. I run operations for the Grand Regent. Charlotte Reed, she replied. Though I already knew, director of the Oakwood Literacy Foundation, at least until my board decides I just lost our gala venue, our deposit, and our credibility in one morning. When is the gala? And 6 weeks. Guest count? 400. Meal format? 3-course plated dinner, silent auction, donor impact video, foundation address, press table. I pulled a leather notebook from my inner pocket and clicked my pen. Charlotte stared at it. You take notes at lunch? I take notes when a problem has moving parts. A tired laugh almost escaped her. This problem has too many moving parts. Not too many, just unfiled. She rubbed her temple. You don't understand. The Grand Regent is out of our budget. Your ballroom has a food and beverage minimum I cannot touch. Evelyn Morris already thinks my staff is overhead. She can cut. If I come to her with a luxury hotel proposal after losing a $50,000 deposit, she'll call it proof I'm reckless. She wants the endowment, I said. Charlotte's hand stilled around the glass. I had guessed right. She wants to reallocate the operational fund, Charlotte said. She says programs can be outsourced. She says my team is too expensive. If the gala fails, she has the votes to dissolve us. Then the gala cannot fail. She looked at me as if she wanted to believe that, and hated herself for wanting it. The Crystal Ballroom is open on the 14th, I said. A tech conference canceled last week. The space is sitting empty. I can't afford it. You cannot afford retail. That is different. I turned the notebook so she could see the numbers. The hotel group has an approved community outreach sponsorship line. If Oakwood partners with us, I can route the room rental through the sponsorship portfolio, provided finance signs off, and your board approves the amended agreement. Chef Liam Foster can design a tiered menu that stays inside your remaining budget. You keep ownership of the gala. The hotel becomes a corporate sponsor, not a rescuer. Charlotte read the numbers. Her suspicion was not insulting. It was healthy. Why would you do that? She asked. You don't know me. I know the work your foundation does. I know a man tried to bully you on my patio, and I know an empty ballroom can either sit dark or keep 400 donors from walking away. She looked down at the notebook again. What's the catch? You approve every line. Your board signs the amendment. Finance sees the routing before a purchase order goes out. If it doesn't work on paper, you walk away. The sun moved over the marble table. Charlotte's shoulders dropped a fraction. Then you can look at the logistics file, she said. The transition from patio crisis to controlled operation took 3 days. Charlotte arrived in my executive office on Tuesday afternoon with 2 canvas tote bags, 3 binders, and an assistant named Harper Brooks, who looked like she had been held upright by coffee and duty for several years. My office overlooked the city skyline, but Charlotte did not look at the view. She looked at the whiteboards. Every wall held clean grids, banquet timelines, room turns, VIP arrivals, catering schedules, staffing rotations, not a line out of place. Charlotte set the tote bags on the conference table with a heavy thud. I feel like I'm bringing a hurricane into a museum. I deal with hurricanes for a living. Harper lowered the binders with both hands. Do hurricanes usually come with coffee? They do here. I gestured toward the cart by the window. Chef Liam sent dark roast and sandwiches. Eat before we touch a single file. Harper's face softened, like I had handed her a passport out of war. Charlotte gave me a look. You ordered food before seeing the problem? No effective logistics meeting begins with starving people. Harper whispered, I like him. Charlotte did not smile, but one corner of her mouth moved. We began with rules. I don't touch your laptop without permission, I said. I don't make board decisions for you. I will organize options. You choose. Charlotte placed her hand on the top binner. Good. For 4 hours, we turned chaos into categories. Venue failure, legal claim, donor communications, food and beverage, silent auction, AV, sponsorship amendment, board politics, Evelyn Morris. That last name appeared too often. I tapped it with the end of my pen. She's the bottleneck. Charlotte leaned back, rubbing both hands over her face. Evelyn believes charity should run on guilt and unpaid overtime. She thinks my staff is bloated. If this gala misses last year's margin by even 5%, she'll argue we should dissolve the operations team. How many salaries? 12. The room went quiet. Not abstract stakes. 12 people with rent, children, medical bills, student loans, families. Harper looked down at the table. I capped my pen. Then we don't build a gala, I said. We build proof, perfect guest flow, clean donor messaging, cost controls, hot food, clear microphones, visible auction displays, no dead zones in the room, no late queues, no opening for Evelyn to call your team unnecessary. Charlotte looked at the file grid, then at me. You say, we like you're on payroll. When an event happens inside my building, my reputation is attached to it. And the rest? I met her eyes. The rest is that I respect people who carry 12 salaries and still ask permission before taking up space. She looked away first, but she did not look unconvinced. By the end of the week, the adjoining conference room had become Oakwood's temporary command center. Harper labeled the coffee cart emergency literacy fuel. Liam Foster, my executive chef and oldest friend in the building, came up every morning with menu revisions and the expression of a man who believed all meetings should include carbohydrates. On Thursday night, I found Charlotte alone in the conference room after Harper had gone home. The city outside the window was turning blue. The coffee cart was empty, except for one paper cup, cold and forgotten. Charlotte sat with her hands flat on either side of a spreadsheet, staring at a donor list without reading it. The room smelled faintly of marker ink, coffee, and the lemon polish our housekeeping staff used on the table. I stopped at the doorway. You're not looking at the spreadsheet, I said. I am. You've been on the same row for 9 minutes. Her mouth pulled into a tired line. You time people? I manage hotels. Timing is the difference between elegance and disaster. She looked down at the sheet. This donor used to fund 3 schools by himself. Last year, he moved half his giving to Evelyn's project. If she gets to him before I do, I lose the tutoring wing. I crossed to the opposite side of the table and picked up a marker. Then don't call him tonight. Charlotte looked up sharply. I have to. No. Tonight you write a 1-page impact brief. Clean numbers, program outcomes, children served, cost per student. Harper sends it tomorrow morning with your direct call request. You do not beg a donor while exhausted. She stared at me for a moment. Then she pushed the donor sheet across the table. Fine, but I write the brief. I wouldn't trust it if you didn't. The marker squeaked against the whiteboard as she started drafting bullet points. 10 minutes later, her shoulders eased. 20 minutes later, she had a clean donor argument with numbers strong enough to stand without apology. She capped the marker. I was about to call him and sound desperate, she said. You sounded tired. That is not the same thing. She touched the edge of the whiteboard, where the program numbers sat in her handwriting. This is better. Yes. And you didn't take the call away from me. No. She looked at me across the conference table. The silence held longer than it should have. Then Harper's sticky note on the coffee cart caught her eye. Emergency literacy fuel. Charlotte laughed under her breath. Harper is never allowed near branding. Too late. I already told marketing. That laugh stayed in the room after she left. On Friday, Liam pulled me aside near the service elevator, while Charlotte and Harper argued over donor table placement. You know this is not just a venue rescue, Liam said. I know exactly what this is. No, he said. You know the logistics. I'm asking if you know the line. I looked through the glass wall. Charlotte stood over the table with a pencil behind her ear, sleeves pushed to her elbows, talking through donor flow with Harper. Exhausted, but present. Not helpless. Never that. The line stays where she puts it, I said. Liam studied me for a beat. Then he nodded. Good. Because if you decide her choices for her, you become a prettier version of Vance. I'm not pretty. You own 3 identical Navy suits and polish your shoes like a monk. Don't start pretending humility now. I almost smiled. Liam left me with the menu and an uncomfortable truth I already knew. Protective could become controlling if it stopped asking. So I kept asking, may I sort these contracts? Do you want me to call finance? Or do you want the template? Should Harper handle donor acknowledgements, or do you want them held until after the board vote? Every question mattered. Every answer belonged to Charlotte. The first counterattack came from Evelyn. Thursday morning, 4 days before the gala, my radio clicked while I was in the main lobby inspecting a floral installation. Mr. Mitchell, the floor manager said, code level issue in the crystal ballroom. I did not run. Running makes staff afraid. But my stride lengthened. When I pushed open the brass-studded doors, Charlotte stood in the middle of the empty ballroom with her binder pressed to her chest. Across from her, Evelyn Morris held a silver clipboard like a blade. 2 city inspectors examined the emergency exits. Evelyn smiled. Mr. Mitchell, I requested an independent safety audit. Given Oakwood's recent trouble with unsafe venues, I cannot allow 400 donors into a building without rigorous secondary review. She checked her watch, then smiled again when one inspector paused near the west exit. Charlotte's fingers tightened around the binder before the inspector had spoken. There was the move. Delay the sign-off, create panic, force a postponement. Let Evelyn call it leadership failure. I approached the inspectors first. Gentleman Noah Mitchell, General Manager of Operations. You are welcome to inspect. I only ask that we follow the municipal fire marshal checklist already filed for this room. I synced the digital file to their tablets. Sprinkler pressure logs are on page 4. Rigging load certifications on page 12. Emergency egress calculations on page 20. We passed our full annual safety audit 3 weeks ago with no violations. The lead inspector scrolled. His shoulders relaxed. This is organized, he said. We'll do a quick visual and sign off if the exits are clear. They are. They were. Because my building did not run on luck. 10 minutes later, the visual check was complete. The inspector signed. Evelyn's jaw hardened. I turned to her with the same polite tone I used for diplomats and furious celebrities. The safety of my guests is not a matter for political theater, Miss Morris. If you have further structural concerns about this hotel, please route them through our corporate legal department. I can provide their contact before you leave. Evelyn looked past me to Charlotte. See that the event goes perfectly. Charlotte lifted her chin. That was always the plan. Evelyn walked out. The doors closed. The ballroom became too quiet. Charlotte lowered herself onto the edge of the portable stage, the binder still clutched in both hands. I sat beside her, leaving 2 feet of space. She's going to keep looking, Charlotte said. She doesn't care about the children or the programs or the people. She just wants the endowment. I placed my notebook on the stage between us. Then we make her look at facts. Charlotte stared at the polished ballroom floor. I'm tired of being the only one in the room who cares. I opened the notebook to the new checklist. Harper cares. Liam cares. Your staff cares. I care about the room and the outcome. You are not the only one in this anymore. Her eyes moved to the list. Not to me. To the next step. That was better. What do we do now? She asked. We close every crack she can see. Charlotte picked up the pen first. Then start with donor parking, she said. Good. She was back. The real crisis arrived 48 hours before the gala. I was in the loading dock checking linen deliveries when Harper came down the concrete ramp so fast, one of her binders nearly opened mid-air. Noah. The AV vendor backed out. I looked up. Their truck broke down out of state, Harper said. No replacement, no lighting, no wireless microphones, No main screen for the donor impact video. That could kill the event. A gala without sound becomes dinner. A donor video without projection becomes an apology. Bad lighting makes expensive rooms feel cheap, and cheap rooms feel doomed. Charlotte arrived 2 minutes later, pale but moving. "I'll call the board," she said. "If we tell them now, maybe we can." "Before you call," I said, keeping my voice even, "give me 5 minutes to test one route. If it fails, you make the call." "One?" Charlotte looked at me, then nodded. 5 minutes. I called Marcus Vale, the owner of a production company I had used years ago for a crisis summit. "Marcus, Noah Mitchell, I need a corporate AV rig by dawn, truss lighting, 12 wireless lavaliers, a 4K projection screen, and a crew who won't panic around donors." He laughed once, then realized I was not joking. The quote he gave me was painful, not impossible. I muted the phone and turned to Charlotte. "The emergency rig exists. It is expensive. I am not hiding it inside a fake training expense." Her eyes sharpened. "Good. I can route part through the hotel's approved community outreach contingency line because the hotel is already a corporate sponsor. I will copy finance before the purchase order goes out. Your board will need to sign an emergency sponsorship amendment for the rest. If they refuse, we reduce the donor video and rework the program around live speakers." Charlotte took the phone from me. Not because I handed her control for show, because the amendment was hers to negotiate. She stepped aside and called the board chair. Her voice did not shake. "This is Charlotte Reed. The AV vendor failed. I have an emergency replacement with cost breakdown and sponsor offset. I am sending the amendment now. If we approve within the hour, the gala proceeds without visible disruption. If not, we alter the program and lose donor impact. I recommend approval." She listened, then said, "No, Evelyn does not need to review it first. She is a conflicted party after this morning's audit stunt." Harper's mouth opened. I looked at the concrete floor to hide my expression. Charlotte ended the call 7 minutes later. "Approved," she said. Marcus had the rig at the loading dock by 5:46 the next morning. Liam met me there with coffee and a breakfast sandwich. "You look like you slept in a spreadsheet," he said. I did not sleep. Worse. He handed me the coffee. Across the dock, Charlotte stood with Harper and the AV crew, pointing at the stage diagram. Her cardigan sleeves were pushed back. Her hair was clipped up with a pen. She looked tired enough to sway, but every instruction landed clean. Liam followed my gaze. "She made the call herself?" "Yes." "Good." Then he clapped me on the shoulder. "Now go be useful without looking heroic." The gala night arrived wearing amber light. The crystal ballroom transformed into a world donors wanted to believe they had built. Round tables gleamed beneath crystal chandeliers. The stage lighting warmed the room without flattening it. The silent auction displays pulled guests naturally through the space. Liam's kitchen dropped 400 hot plates in 5 minutes, every course timed to the speeches. My staff moved like a single organism. Charlotte moved like the heartbeat. She wore a navy gown with a tailored wrap that gave her the same quiet authority she had shown in the conference room. She spoke to donors, thanked volunteers, checked on Harper, greeted board members, and never once looked like a woman waiting to be saved. Evelyn Morris sat at table 12, inspecting everything. The silverware, the soup temperature, the spacing between tables, the donor video, the lighting cue. She found nothing. At the silent auction transition, Charlotte stepped into the service alcove, where I stood near the kitchen doors. "We surpassed last year's donations by 40%, she said. The words came out quiet. Too quiet for what they meant. I straightened. "Already?" "It? Already." Her eyes were bright. The board chair signed off on the operational budget for the next 2 years. "Evelyn legally cannot touch my team. The programs are funded. 12 salaries are safe." The room noise blurred for 1 second. Then I heard the kitchen printer behind me, the jazz trio starting the next set, Harper laughing near the auction table. "Proof. Not hope. Proof." "You protected them," I said. Charlotte shook her head. We did. I, I, no, I said. You made the calls. You signed the amendments. You stood in front of the board. You gave me a room where I could stand. That was the line I felt under my ribs. I looked at her hand, resting against the edge of the service table. I did not reach for it. Not here. Not in the middle of the event. Not while she was still the client, and I was still the hotelier responsible for the room. Charlotte noticed. A soft understanding moved across her face. After the invoice closes, she said. I looked at her. She smiled, small and tired and certain. After the event is done, after no one can say I mistook gratitude for a decision, then she walked back into the ballroom. I stood in the alcove longer than necessary. Liam came up beside me with a tray list. You look like someone got through your firewall. Service is still active. Pathetic answer. Accurate answer. He glanced toward Charlotte. She'll choose cleanly. Let her. I plan to. Good. Now, stop staring and fix table 8's vegetarian plate. The gala ended after midnight. By 4 a.m., the ballroom was spotless. By 8:30 a.m., finance confirmed the sponsorship routing was clean. By 8:47, Charlotte's board chair sent the final event closure. Approved, reconciled, no outstanding liability. By 9, I sat at table 4 on the sunny patio with 2 cups of dark roast coffee. The same marble table. The same reserved sign. Different air. Charlotte walked through the terrace doors wearing jeans, a soft cream sweater, and no armor. Harper followed behind her with 2 binders tucked under one arm, and a grin she did not bother hiding. Charlotte sat across from me. Harper placed a folder on the table. Final board packet, Harper said. Signed, reconciled, Evelyn proof. Charlotte gave her a look. That is not a legal term. It should be. I opened the folder. At the top was the closure statement. Beneath it, the board budget approval. Beneath that, a letter from Charlotte's attorney. Vance had agreed to return the full $50,000 deposit rather than face a public negligence filing tied to the municipal report on his unsafe haul. Loop closed. Charlotte watched me read. Vance folded this morning, she said. My attorney thinks he'll never put that haul contract in front of a non-profit again. Good. Harper looked between us. Then picked up both empty binders. I'm going to give you exactly 4 minutes before I come back and ask whether this is a professional meeting or the slowest date in hotel history. Charlotte's face warmed. I looked at Harper. 4 minutes is not a standard meeting block. It is now. She walked back inside. Charlotte laughed softly, then looked down at the coffee. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The patio was busy around us. Cups clicked. Chairs shifted. A waiter refilled water at the next table. The city moved beyond the terrace, bright and ordinary. 6 weeks ago, Charlotte had sat here cornered by the wrong man. Now she sat here with the event closed, her staff safe, her deposit returned, and her decisions fully her own. I placed my hand palm up in the center of the marble table. No reach. No demand. A question. Charlotte looked at it. Then at me. You know, she said. Harper is absolutely watching through the glass. I assumed. Liam too. Almost certainly. And you're still asking like this is a board motion? I respect procedure. Her smile reached her eyes. Then she placed her hand in mine. Firm. Warm. Chosen. This is not because you saved the gala, she said. I know. It is not because I owe you. I know. It is because when the wrong man sat at my table, you asked what I wanted before you stepped in. Her fingers tightened around mine. And because I still wish it was you. Behind the glass, Harper lifted both binders in silent victory. Liam appeared beside her, holding a coffee cup and mouthed, "Finally." Charlotte laughed. The sound landed on the table between us, brighter than the sun on the marble. For once, there was no emergency to manage. No board to persuade. No donor to impress. Just her hand in mine, 2 cups of coffee, and the table where an ambush had become a beginning. The end. Closing thoughts. Core lesson: real love gives you a safe place to land without taking your choices away. Green flag: a safe partner protects your dignity, your work, and your voice. Please like and subscribe so we can share more stories like this.